Upset? I'm not upset. Why? What makes you think I'm upset?
So why are you upset?
You are listening to The Review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Welcome to another round of The Review, the OSG Sports college football version of things. John here, Marty there. Marty is in OSG SW. He's in the Southwestern version. He's over in Dallas, Texas, and he's holding down
Arlington, to be specific.
Thank you. Yes, Arlington to be specific. So Marty's holding things down in the Southwestern Conference footprint. We can say that because it no longer exists and they can't sue us. I'm here at OSG HQ in Atlanta. We're going to go over all of the greatest hits, the top 25s, the upsets, the almost upsets, the cupcake games, all that kind of stuff. Yet we are not going to turn this into the McLaughlin group and sit there and ask, is Texas back? Because then I would be like John McLaughlin, Marty, and I'd go, wrong! You know, one of those kind of things. But
I'm not going to lie. I was spite watching that game. I'm so sick of hearing that every single year for 5 minutes, and then it goes away at some point.
They're back. And I know that a fair amount of folks in the United States were sitting there just kind of wishing kind of that Bane would drop by, and it would be like the scene at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh where the ground would just open up and both teams would fall through it. But that probably didn't happen.
Yeah, I put a tweet out during the game. I'm like, this is kind of like watching two kids that you don't like fight at recess.
Yes.
You know, you're not really cheering for anybody, but you're just kind of watching the spectacle.
Oh, 34-24 winners by Texas. First time in a while that Alabama has been beaten by double digits at home. Quinn Ewers, who initially started out. Yeah.
That is actually their worst loss since Saban coached at LSU.
Far out. Quinn Ewers tried to be the college football version of Bryce Harper, and he's thrown for 349 and 3 yesterday, and as we're talking about it on Sunday. So, you know, all I'm going to say is this: when it comes to Texas, Mazel Tov.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you won. Are you back? I ain't going there because, I mean, seriously. And yeah, they're 2-0. They're ranked. They were coming into the weekend. They're ranked number 11. Now, Marty, let me go over the schedule real quick for the rest of the season for Texas. Wyoming, cupcake. Yeah. At Baylor.
Although don't worry about the letdown after such a big win, as is one to happen.
Yes.
Or as I want to happen.
Yes. Let's see, they're at Baylor, then they play Kansas at home. JW will be psyched for that one at the end of the month. Bedlam is on the
It's a resurgent Kansas, by the way.
Yes, it is a resurgent Kansas, and I love their unis. I like what they broke out yesterday. Oklahoma, Bedlam's on the 7th. Then they're at Houston. BYU, K-State, TCU, Iowa State, Texas Tech. The schedule and when they play and where they play, folks, is very beneficial to Texas right now, provided they don't trip on their shoes.
Yeah, those are very winnable, and staying healthy as well.
Yes.
I know. Yours, I got to give him credit. You know, since he cut the mullet, he's been a new man. He was strong to begin with.
He's corporate Quinn.
Yeah. I'm not going to hold against him that he knocked out my nephew playing at Euless Trinity back when he was still in high school. I won't hold that against him. My nephew David was a linebacker there playing against him.
That's your brush with corporate Quinn. Very, very nice. And you broke out the Martin gear today.
Yeah, we mentioned last week on the podcast, support your local high school. So just down the road for me is Martin High School. Having a rough season so far, but they have a bye week coming up, so hopefully they take that opportunity to get things turned around. I'm sure they have their own podcast, so we won't go too deep on them.
Nope. You were conflicted with Ohio State and Youngstown State, and you know we have a production chain and a chat. Youngstown State scored first. I was ecstatic. I was giving messages in all caps, but it ended up being Ohio State the rest of the way. They're 35-7.
Yeah, they for those who watch the game, there's a really nice picture of Tressel standing on the sideline with his credential, and it had you see that on each side he's got a Youngstown logo on one side and Ohio State on the other, and some genius on Twitter and I wish I knew who originally did it because it was probably copied by a million people. Changed the press pass to say, "I just hope both teams have fun," which is just like something the senator would say. It was a good game. I think, I saw some sites actually were a little critical of. They called it a humiliating win. And I think, I wouldn't wade too much into Tressel's there and not running, not wanting to run up in-state school and drive them into the ground and hurt a bunch of people. Although some people did get dinged up during that game. But overall, I think it was a good game by Ohio State. I'm still thinking they're overranked. And I'm saying this as a lifelong Ohio State fan.
Yeah.
But they're still having problems on the left side of that line. I like the kid Simmons, but, he's had like one goofball thing per game that really stands out a lot that makes me nervous about the left tackle situation. So I'm really hoping that Coach Fry gets the line firing a little bit better because, as a Youngstown State grad, diploma's up there behind me. You got the national championship copper plate right there and the helmet right there. They should not be giving them that much trouble at the line.
No. But
on both sides, by the way.
Yes. And so
but how much of that is let's not kick them in the teeth, because it looked like when Ohio State wanted to, they just shut stuff down. But I'm still worried about the Buckeyes going forward.
Yes. Big numbers put up by USC because they played Stanford, Penn State because they played Delaware. It took Washington a while to turn the engine over. They beat Tulsa. Tennessee struggled for a while against the Governors of Austin Peay. Hey, flies open. Let's go Peay. Notre Dame put 45 on NC State and Raleigh. Utah struggled for a little while, 20-13 win in Waco against Baylor. Talk struggle. Oregon had to have a 20-point fourth quarter to beat Texas Tech in Lubbock. They had to shake it off, and Bo Nix ended up throwing for 359 and 2. Oregon comes out with a win on the road.
God, I can't see, our families went together to go see Bo Nix when he's still at Auburn. And what do you have, like 100 yards passing?
Yeah, but he had the clutch touchdown late for the win, though.
Man,
I know.
It's crazy what a change of scenery will do for somebody.
Yeah, and coaches that can actually plot offensive game plans. Did I say that out loud? Look, the boss will agree with me.
Don't get mad at him. Let him stay in the house.
He's the alumnus. She would agree with me. By the way, for those who are new to the show and new to the season, I have the boss here at the house is an alumna of Auburn University. So we catch SEC fire all the time, and she is probably the leader with the blowtorch when it comes to her coaches, her staff, and the lack of success. Marty has a split household. He is Ohio State, Youngstown State, SMU. And so it is interesting to the coeducational institution of higher learning in Dallas, Texas, as they work their way into the All Coast Conference eventually. But these are the kind of rivalries that we will be introducing you to in the backgrounds of our families here as we go here in the show. LSU put up a big number. Kansas State beat Troy, put up a big number. Oregon State put up a big number. App State and North Carolina.
Wow.
Free football 2 times over before North Carolina squeaked that one out.
Now, I was watching that game, and the thing that kept going through my mind, Michigan App State.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're lining up for a kick before the end of regulation. I'm sitting there going, oh, could this happen twice? Oh, my God. Not to be, though, unfortunately. I like App State. They kicked the crap out of Youngstown State during the I'm still going to call it 1AA playoffs, but good on them moving up a division and, playing strong.
No doubt.
Playing strong early on. This is only the second year in?
So that's a couple of seasons in. Yeah. I mean, it's been a couple of years, but App State's doing really well and causing a lot of problems. Oklahoma put 28 on the board at home against SMU. SMU, they've got some work to do, but they're now 1-1. Wisconsin, here's your upset alert. Washington State in the Palouse beats Wisconsin 31-22. What's going on with Wisconsin? Seems like they're just the same old bunch.
So I don't know if you saw any of the post-game press conferences. As soon as they got the coach coming off the field, he made a bold statement. This just shows that we belong in the Power Five.
Oh, no.
And I never felt so proud of a coach for a team that I don't care about. Now I wonder, related to them, did you see that they filed an injunction to pull the voting rights from the other schools into Pac-12 so that they don't pillage the cup of all? Well, let's call it the money bag.
Yes, it's money bag.
They basically, I don't know who did their charter, but there is a rule that once you declare and you're officially declared to leave the conference, you forfeit your voting rights.
Oh.
So that would only leave 2 schools with voting rights. So I'm hoping that injunction works and they stop those teams from pillaging them on the way out.
Well,
The former, is he former yet, or is he still just floating there? The former commissioner,
he's still, as long as the Tupac still has a league, they still have a commissioner. George Kliavkov is still commissioner of what's left. Yeah,
even though they've hired somebody else to basically be the commissioner.
Oliver Luck. We need save us, Oliver Luck.
Oliver Luck. I don't know when they're gonna, what they're waiting for to name him the commissioner, but
Yeah,
I think that merger is inevitable.
Oh yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's like but the Mountain West is going to fight it over branding rights and things like that. Well, there's more of us than there are of you. You need to change over to us, and then the Pac-2 will sit there and go, well, we're the Pacific.
2 words solve that argument.
Yeah,
automatic bid.
Yeah, that's true. And so you're trying to fight your way through it and figure out what's going on. It will be interesting to see how that continues. But Wisconsin loses on the road to Washington State.
Yeah, I love Fickle, but
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yes.
Thanks. Helps the Buckeyes.
Yes, Ole Miss and Tulane in one of the really cool early season matchups. It took a while, and Ole Miss got the Duke 37-20. Lane Kiffin looked like a John Grisham novel main character as he was walking to. I mean, you get off the bus, you're in the suit and everything, and it looked like it was a seersucker suit, or at least it was a very, very light fabric. But he did look like he had just stepped out of a John Grisham novel as he was getting ready for the game at Yeoman. Duke put up a big number, and that gets us to our friends coming into the weekend at number 22, Colorado. They should have beaten Nebraska. It took a lot longer than it should have, but it was 36-14 final. Shedeur Sanders threw for 393 and 2, and he took it personal. He took it.
Yeah, they had it on the sideline. I wonder, if that was already rehearsed before the thing, like a lot of stuff Deion said, does. But yeah, they're starting to get some traction, but they haven't beat a good team yet. All props to him. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but you've got to beat a good team.
I mean, I think they'll finish 8-4, and here's why.
Which is respectable and an amazing turnaround, and would be a credit to the entire staff and all the players there.
You got Oregon. I mean, you've got Colorado State next. That should be a win. You're 3-0, but then you've got back-to-back
rivalry game, though. You never know.
True. You've got Oregon and USC after that. That's 2 losses. So you're 3-2 at that point. Then
that's the true test right there.
Then you've got a good run of games. Arizona State, Stanford. Then you're at UCLA, Oregon State, Arizona, both at home. You finish at Washington State and at Utah. So, I mean, 8-4 seems manageable here for this group, for the fantastic turnaround that we've seen at Colorado. I mean, yeah, it's great. And I love to see it when new folks kind of pop up and do these kinds of things. But they're 2-0. They've beaten teams. Obviously, everybody looked at what happened first week at TCU, and they're like, oh, that's a surprise. But they should have beaten Nebraska. They're 2-0, and rivalry game, but I think they'll be 3-2 after their first 5.
Yeah, with them, I'm not trying to shortcut them, but I want to see how they handle adversity.
Yes.
They seem very happy when they win, but I want to see what you basically have a bunch of mercenaries.
But that's what these are 1-year deals, and this is what one of the things I think that we lose sometimes. Scholarships are renewable 1-year contracts. They're not 4- and 5-year deals. They are renewable 1-year deals, and so when you have almost 60 player turnover, you're going to have something like this happen, and it's going to take a little time for them to get adjusted to what Prime and the staff want to do offensively and defensively. Right now, Colorado can't stop the run to save their life. And Charles Kelly is going to be working on that. And that's what you do with these early games. But it's early, folks. It's a great story. They're 2-0. It's early. They got games coming up.
Their offensive coordinator's been dialing some stuff up. That it's funny because if you watch him action, you've seen some of those plays before, and I kind of like him bringing that kind of razzle dazzle to the up. Well, they're still Division I, but it's not the same division when you're talking about the MAC and the non-Power 5 schools.
Right.
But I want to see what they do. I want to see how they handle adversity. That's the true test for me. That's when they're going to get my respect, is if when they take a loss, do they start pointing fingers at each other, or do they rally? And, that's when we're going to find out what their culture is really like. It's not going to be a bunch of press snippets. It's going to be how they actually act.
Yep. 2 more games in the top 25. Once again, this was my game where I'd kind of wished that the earth would swallow both of these teams up and they would never be back. Miami and Texas A&M, for various reasons. By the way, Florida State alum, that's your main reason. Then secondarily, the head coach at Texas A&M, whom I refer to as the quitter, and then there's usually an adjective right there between the and the quitter. 81 points between the two of them. Texas A&M was the team that was ranked. Miami got the Duke by outscoring them 17-7, 27-16 in the final in the second half. So the ground did not swallow up both of these schools. Somebody had to win, and Miami did.
And the weather tried to before that game. They got delayed twice.
Yeah, they did, yes.
Yeah, that was crazy. It was kind of weird seeing them play in the Dolphin Stadium as well.
Yeah.
Which is a little different, but I'm sure they would have had a bigger crowd had that weather cooperated a little, because I think they had a good number more before that weather delay, and then they lost some people.
And then Clemson put 66 on Charleston Southern after Charleston Southern actually had an early lead in the first quarter, so they finally woke up. But that takes us through the top 25. Before we go to break and before we have our interview segment in the middle, what other thoughts do you have from the top 25 this week?
I'm hearing grumblings with Clemson. Is that coach going to be there at the end of the year?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, Dabo is there as long as he is allowed to be there. It's going to have to be pitchforks, tiki torches, and Dabo heading off into the sunset. I think that this is a situation where Dabo is there for life, because I don't think he wants any of the smoke in Tuscaloosa, because everybody linked Dabo to Tuscaloosa if, Nick goes. You don't want to be the guy that replaces a legend. You want to be the guy that replaces the guy that replaces a legend. So I think that Dabo is going to stay at Clemson for as long as they'll have him, and he will continue to adjust. But one of the things that Dabo is going to have to consider is the portal. He is staunchly against portaling and athletes and bringing in talent that are attached to the portal. He wants to do it organically. He wants to come in with his recruits. He wants to do it his way.
He wants to build his culture.
Right. And so you end up with what you're seeing right now with Clemson. And I think that they can only get you so far in the 21st century when it comes to college football. There are different ways to build programs. Dabo has his way, but I think it can only get you so far. And I think that there might have to be a moment where he looks at the portal and sits there and says, I might have to invest more in that as part of building my roster.
Yeah, I wouldn't use it as a full roster. I mean, you have like Colorado, you have Texas State. Now, Texas State came back to reality this week. They lost to UTSA, but they both got a bump that first week of having all those players come in. But, I think they need to take he's going to have to look at sprinkling in a little bit, season it. Don't make that your stock.
Right.
I'd like to see, he seemed really frustrated whenever you see an interview with him. He talks about the NIL. So I want to see what he's like at the end of the year, depending on how their season rolls out.
Yes. And it will be interesting to see how Clemson continues to navigate the Atlantic Coast Conference. When we come back, really cool interview in the anchor leg this week. The University of West Georgia pretty much shocked everybody by saying, okay, we're a D2 power. We do well in the Gulf South Conference. This week, they decided to transition to NCAA Division I, and it's a very, very unique approach with what they're doing, and it's tied to 2 separate conferences because of the 18 sports that they're going to have coming online when they go. Basically, it's what Marty and I refer to as FCS, 1AA, what have you. It is the ASUN and It is for football strategic purposes, the United Athletic Conference. And so we catch up with the director of athletics at the University of West Georgia, Jason Carmichael, about West Georgia's shocking move from Div.II to Div.I. All that and more on the review. He's Marty. I'm John. It's the OSG Sports Review. When we go over everything in college football, stick and stay. We'll be right back.
Please like and subscribe.
Over here in the OSG Sports side of things, we talk football. Football. College football version here with the College Football Review every single week. But for those of you that like not just football with two O's, but football with a U, Futbol, there's the Soccer Down Here Network. I'm John Nelson. I host the morning show on Soccer Down Here along with Jarrett Smith, Nick Alifi, Jason Longshore. And if you're looking for the best information when it comes to the world of soccer, based in the southeastern United States, but we don't leave anything off the table. 9:05 Eastern time until 11 whenever. Sometimes we go for a while. SDH Network morning show, soccer's morning show, Monday through Friday, plus all the live events we do. It is your place and your source for soccer that is based in the Southeast, but covers everything on the world. SoccerDownHere.net, the Soccer Down Here app, available iOS and Android through our friends at Spreaker. That's like speaker with an R in the middle. Spreaker, do a search for OSG Sports, do a search for Soccer Down Here. All the soccer content all in one place. It is the SDH Network and Soccer Down Here. So let me ask you this, Jason. When it comes to the non-revenue sports, the sports that we normally associate with non-revenue, how does this relationship go? Because we've seen in some instances when folks transition to Div.I, the conference is different from the landing spot from the larger sports. How is this integration happening with West Georgia? Is it all in that ASUN direction, or are you envisioning some of your teams heading to other places?
No, that's a great question, John. Well, one of the things, and this is to the broader question about making a move and what you look for when you transition conferences or when you transition divisions or you do both, is the college industry, the college athletics industry is really, I've equated it to the teacup ride that we all see in our early amusement park trips. And all of us are spinning to some degree because of just the transition that's in place and really massive tidal wave of the change it feels like on the daily. And so for us, it's essential. If we're going to move, we wanted to go somewhere that the teacup was spinning a little bit slower. And so part of that philosophy is we wanted to get all of our teams, as many of our teams as we could, into the same conference. We didn't want to piecemeal it. We wanted to land in a new home. The Gulf South Conference has been a great home for West Georgia, University of West Georgia, and all the various iterations of names we had before that. We were Braves at one point in the league. We've been Wolves in that league. It's been our home for athletics. And so we didn't want to just kind of go in haphazard and split ourselves into different pieces, which also, challenged us with the UAC model for football, if I'm just being completely honest. But we worked through that. And so outside of football, everybody else is going to live in really one league. It's going to be inside the ASUN. We're excited about that. It's a league that's very intentional about other sports beyond just the revenue sports, to use that term. And honestly, these are moves when you go up to Div.I. One of the things that is often overlooked is that those non-revenue or Olympic sports are places that you can make some investments and get a really fairly quick yield in those places too. And you do that with some intentionality. So we're excited for that. We're excited to be under the ASUN umbrella. For the most part, if we look at it, the geography, ASUN, and all of our other sports is going to be fabulous. It gets us into markets where we're recruiting student athletes already, and really all of those teams that we sponsor. It also gets us into markets where we're recruiting just our general population of students. And so we're excited to be able to put teams into play in all these spaces and to do it under the ASUN banner.
Welcome back to the review. John here, Marty there, and we're going to go through the schedule, and we're going to go through all the other stuff that happened that was not top 25 here in the C block. Great to catch up with I just call everybody Coach Carmichael over at the University of West Georgia as they're planning their move to the ASUN and to the UAC. And it was an interesting point that he made, Marty, in the interview, where the UAC, the way that it is currently structured, and I didn't know this, and it didn't quite sink in until he was talking about it, that the UAC, when it comes to football, is basically the WAC. And when you go there, you're flying into major markets, and it's not as daunting as you might think when it comes to all of these opposition, all these teams that you're going up against in this league, because in the UAC, the United Athletic Football Conference, Tarleton, Abilene, Central Arkansas, Stephen F., North Alabama, which they know from Div.II, Austin P., Eastern Kentucky, Southern Utah, Utah Tech. And he gave the Utah Tech example. Basically, you're flying into the Four Corners, and you're traveling 90 minutes, and you're there. And so it'll be interesting with the UAC welcoming West Georgia as their 11th member now in football, and they're going into the ASUN and all these 17 other sports. Very, very cool stuff happening, not just on the top levels of Division I, but folks jumping back into D1.
Yeah, support your local college and high school. But yeah, I really like that, for him, that was a big deciding factor. Mm-hmm. It works for smaller schools. I went to a smaller school, Youngstown State. Currently, they're in two different conferences, one for football and the other for basketball and Olympic sports, and it works for them. For basketball, they're playing teams like Cleveland State that are in their immediate footprint, and it's easy travel. And it's refreshing to hear a conference move that the first thing that you hear the people making decisions talk about is, this is easy travel. It's good for the students. And that's nice. It's nice seeing that in the forefront. And I'm sure the players there really appreciate that as well, because I've done those bus rides.
Yes.
And those are horrible.
Yes, they are. Absolutely. And so over the weekend, we caught up, by the way, with him I think it was in the parking lot at Texas A&M Kingsville, and he literally had to hop into a car so we wouldn't hear the licensed music and be thought of poorly by the licensing police to get the interview done. So I give him full credit for hopping into a car and going hermetically sealed for our interview, by the way. Very, very cool.
It's happened.
And we'll keep an eye on our friends at West Georgia and see what's going on. All right, let's go through all of the non-top 25 stuff, greatest hits, and what happened there with anything that stuck out to you when it came to upsets, numbers, and such.
I kind of expected Georgia to blow out Ball State more and earlier.
Well, but here's my thoughts when it comes to this. I think that Kirby's sitting there and he's looking at all of us and going, it ain't about you. I'm working on stuff, and I'm going to work on things. And if we still got to work on stuff with our next game that we're supposed to beat folks by 40, fine. I'm working on me. I'm getting ready for the SEC. This is my season 1. I'm getting ready for season 2. And if I'm working on things, I don't care. I win, fine. I don't care what my margins are. I got stuff to work on.
Yeah, it was a controlled scrimmage.
Why?
What I thought was an upset was I was watching. I was flipping through the channels, and I saw Penn State against Delaware.
Yeah,
and Delaware was dressed as Michigan, so they had the winged helmets, and I was like, "What the hell is going on here?" And then then the scoreboard came up, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
I think Michigan's dressed as Delaware. I think Delaware might be around longer with that look. You can thank Tubby Raymond for that.
Very nice. The other upset I liked, and I hate to give James Madison credit because they took out my Penguins in a national championship game that I froze my rear end off at here in Frisco, Texas. Them taking out Virginia. Freshly minted 1A college, James Madison, second year, moving up a division, and they're already taking out Virginia.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was also a very emotional day there in Charlottesville as they honored those that were lost on campus last year. And so, I mean, you can understand to a certain degree that early rush of adrenaline and emotion, and then having that wane later on. But no, it was a very, very emotional day in Charlottesville, and it's a solid win for James Madison. I mean, it was a 1-point game, but it was a solid win for them. Cyhawk, when actually, you know what? To be perfectly honest, I think we saw more points scored than I anticipated being scored in Cyhawk. 33.
That was a crazy game. I just tuned in for little bits of that, but that game's all. Anytime you got a trophy involved, it gets weird.
Yes, absolutely. Phil is
the other one, Iowa.
Yeah.
They're
325.
I wonder how many prop bets are out there, for the juice boxes.
Oh,
for Iowa getting 25 points.
See now, if Iowa at 25 and Brian Ferentz is at 325, I think that's the number where he gets his massive bonus. If the team scores, I think 325 points or something like that this year, then he gets a massive bonus. And literally, you have folks playing cliffhanger and advancing.
Yep, I've seen that graphic with his face on the little yodel man.
And going up. And so gradually it's like you're trying to get to that point where the bonus is, but does he get there? That's the biggest question for me. Reason Phil is not with us this week, running herd, is because he was in Statesboro, Georgia Southern and UAB. Trent Dilfer's adventures in college coaching continue. They were down 14-0 after one. Then they put 22 on the board. It was 28-22 at the half, and I imagine that Phil had to take his blood pressure medicine as Georgia Southern ended up winning 49-35, and they had their lead quarterback throws for 385, 2-1, just to get the Duke there. But it was a crazy game in Statesboro.
Yeah, and Phil might actually still be tailgating after that win.
Yeah, wouldn't you?
I would be.
I mean, no doubt about it. Let's see. Trying to scan here and check and see if there's any others of note while I go. Missouri had a bit of a scare with Middle Tennessee State. I think that speaks more to Missouri and what they aren't, as opposed to what Middle Tennessee may be. 23-19 there. Let's see. Houston and Rice. Rice knocks off Houston in free football. That one I did not have on my bingo card. 21 points.
Yeah.
Houston had a 21-point fourth quarter to send it to free football, and they still lose.
I don't know what's going on with Houston. Maybe they should have brought out the Oilers jerseys again.
Mm-hmm.
Another one that surprised me was, and I know nobody else watched it unless they're a complete football sicko, but Morgan State Akron. Yeah, there were tweets I was seeing that saying that Akron should drop football from its athletic program, but they came back and win. And then I saw the ugliest turnover trophy there is.
Oh,
they have a turnover tire.
Oh no, I saw that. I was wondering what that was.
So there's a guy on the sideline rocking a radial around his neck.
He's rocking a radial. That's your hashtag. Rock the radial. That's your hashtag.
Don't get me wrong. I don't like Akron. I went to Youngstown State. We were a division below them. We kicked their rear ends every year, and they stopped playing us.
You should have put the explicit.
And I'm pretty sure if we ever tried to get in the MAC, they would be a strong no vote against us.
Right.
But God, Morgan State.
Uh-huh. And you rock the radial anyway. Mississippi State beats Arizona in one of your weird crossovers. And that one went to overtime. Mississippi State scored in overtime to get the win over Arizona. So Bear Down did not. And a lot of folks are still questioning what's going on at Minnesota. Slow start for them, 10-6 at the half. They end up beating Eastern Michigan 25-6. Maryland had problems with Charlotte early on before getting the win there, 38-20. And what was the other upset I had on my list? Oh, now I can't find it. Oh, I can't find my search engines. Let's see. We'll go to the end. Yeah, we'll go to the end. Auburn and Cal. It's going to be a long season for both of those teams.
That's outside the top 25, in case you're checking.
Yeah, well, that's what this block is. Yes, it's outside the top 25. That's not
just an Auburn dig.
It's not an A block. It's not an A block topic, but yeah, it's going to be a long season for Auburn and Cal. Looking at anything else, regardless of division, odds and ends, I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. Required reading is the situation with Mel Tucker and Michigan State. I don't want to get into a whole lot of detail because it's pretty seedy and nasty, but go to your sources, go to your type A sources and get your information on the Mel Tucker situation at Michigan State. It's pretty wild and it's pretty seedy, and do not be surprised if Mel Tucker is put on administrative leave. And then in short order, Michigan State tries to find a way to get out of said contract. That is your required reading for the week.
How long do you think he makes it this season?
I give it a month because you've got to. I mean, this is leaning toward firing for cause.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And you've got to get all your information squared away. That's
Yeah.
why I think that the first step is going to be administrative leave before they do all
Yeah,
their.
I mean, the only thing keeping him there is that's lawyers getting ducks in a row.
Yes, and once the billable hours have been billed, you're gonna find out probably something akin to a settlement, and Mel Tucker no longer being the coach at Michigan State. But that is your required reading. Check your A-level sources. Don't go to some dude who's, writing a blog in his grandmother's basement wearing underoos and wants to post things at 2:30 in the morning just because he wants to.
Because that's us.
That's us. I'm in my office. You're in
John's
your
in a man cave. I'm in a subsection of my man cave.
Yes. But A-level sourcing, read your sources, check your information. Mel Tucker's time at Michigan State is probably winding its way down. All right.
I would call it borrowed time.
Yes. Next week we got games to look at for next week, and we also like to tell folks about the ticket prices. Should folks go to games that they are interested in and have yet to buy tickets? We like to discuss the secondary market. We like to discuss the juice boxes as we go, if juice boxes exist. And you look at a couple of games out of the blocks. I've skipped to Saturday because Friday, just, Thursday and Friday, it's early. LSU, Mississippi State, Kansas, Missouri. We'll play cliffhanger, basically, or we'll play pressure luck. Basically, no whammies, no whammies. Marty tells me to stop, and we'll start talking about something. Georgia Southern and Wisconsin at noon Eastern on Saturday at Camp Randall. That's an interesting one. You can get in for $18, by the way.
Wow, I'd take that.
Let's see.
We might lose Phil again.
I know, because if Phil flies to Camp Randall and survives jump around at the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, my old boss, Brian Schweitzer, actually, he did an experiment last time he went to a Wisconsin game, and he didn't jump around. He just stood still, and he said it terrified him. The feeling of the stadium moving.
Oh, no doubt.
I really want to see an outside wide shot of that stadium to see if you can actually physically see movement. And good on them for having a tradition like that.
Well, and I've seen chopper shots of, you'll have the chopper shot during jump around, and you'll see the waves because of the folks wearing the clothing and stuff. It's a very good moire effect. That's your search in the dictionary today. Moire, Moire. It is a French term.
Man, somebody's using spell check.
I know.
I'd like to see like a picture of like the ground test equipment showing is it close to what an earthquake is?
Yeah.
Is it hitting? What's it hitting on the Richter scale?
Yes, absolutely. Early game in the 3:30 window. South Carolina and Georgia. We mentioned tests and Kirby trying to take care of things just because he's trying to take care of things. This is one of those first instances where all of that work against Ball State and Tennessee Martin is going to come to the fore. South Carolina comes to Georgia, 3:30 kick on CBS.
An actual test?
Yes, early on, and then you end up with a border war situation there. Let's see. You're still in that part of the schedule where folks are trying to grab folks. By the way, Ohio State has grabbed Western Kentucky for 4:00 on Big Fox.
That'll be fun to watch. I got to say, Western Kentucky fans, living in the footprint of where they'll play North Texas, they have some very, very cool fans that show up and show out. They might give them a game for a little bit because they can throw the ball. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing they do well. But they'll get stomped.
Yeah, they will, and it'll be a big rating for at least the first 30 or 45 minutes when it comes to over-the-air TV ratings. We mentioned borrowed time. Washington comes to Michigan State. That is a 5:00 kick on Peacock at Spartan Stadium. So
Big Ten matchup.
Yeah, Michael Penix Jr. comes back from his Indiana person, being the Washington person, goes to Michigan State to check out what's going on with Michigan State, number 8 Washington. That's on Peacock at 5:00. Scanning, as I'm always want to do. Tennessee and Florida, 7:00 on the 4-letter. I know a lot of folks within the SEC footprint are wishing that once again the ground would open up and both of these teams would fall in. But Tennessee and
I
Florida.
won't comment on that one.
Florida, the get-in price, by the way, is $108 as of right now for the Swamp to get in at Ben Hill Griffin. Tennessee, number 9 in the rankings, pending the change from the week with the losses above them. And Florida, 2-0 and 1-1, 7 o'clock on the 4-letter.
There's a nice interstate matchup on ESPN Plus.
Carlton State and Texas Tech.
That one will be good too. But Indiana State, Ball State.
Ooh, Sycamores and Cardinals. Took me a second. I was trying to figure out something cute to say, and it couldn't come out in time. So I just went with the easy one.
That'll be the board. I want to see something else going on. Maybe I'll pull that up on my phone while I'm watching my big screen TV.
There you go. Backyard Brawl, Pitt and West Virginia's on at 7:30. Get in price $150.
Really?
In Morgantown, yeah. And I think that if Neil Brown gets embarrassed in this one because it's Backyard Brawl, you want to talk borrowed time? It probably is going to be a match race between Mel Tucker and Neil Brown as to who gets sent away first. But the problem is with Neil Brown at West Virginia as a state entity and the state university system, they don't have a whole lot of disposable income. So Neil Brown, having been signed to this contract that he has, if he was to be let go, they really couldn't bring in somebody else high-powered and high-priced to take over the West Virginia program. So they're kind of stuck with him.
They'd have him do something else on campus since they have to keep paying him. Like have him sweeping up or
it's like go
deliveries.
Go pick that up. Could you imagine a coach doing DoorDash on campus? It's like, I'm honoring my contract. You get a knock on the door. And it's like, your pizza's here. You open the door. What? It's you. And it's your ex football coach who's still just earning money on his contract. That would be definitely an interesting thing. Hawaii and Oregon. Hawaii's going to get whacked. Get in price. 8 o'clock on the Pac-12 network is $17 to get into Autzen Stadium. New Mexico State, New Mexico, 1-2 and 1-1. That one is in Albuquerque. Get in price of $30 at 8 o'clock. TCU in Houston is interesting. Jackson State, Texas State in Bobcat Stadium in San Marcos. You can get in for $15. And the Colorado State-Colorado game is one that we mentioned as one of the late games.
Mm-hmm.
10 o'clock on the 4-letter. Get in price, and you mentioned rivalries. Get in price at Folsom Field in Boulder, 2.5 spins, $249 to get in the door at Folsom Field to see.
And that's the cheapest ticket.
Yes, that's the get in price.
God, is exact opposite. I want to see what Prairie View, A&M, and SMU is going for. That's on the Plus at 6 p.m.
All right,
6 p.m. Central Time, since I'm in that time zone.
7 o'clock, efforting. Get in price at Gerald J. Ford is $16.
That guy that's paying for their move to a Power 5 conference.
Yeah.
Why don't they spend a little bit of that money on tickets or force his employees to go to make the stands look full so it looks like they belong in that conference?
Yeah, I mean, there was a.
I'm going to get in trouble for that, by the way.
There's a great as long as the boss there at OSGSW doesn't listen to the show, then she won't. Or if this isn't time stamped, then she won't come after you for it. But I mean, they don't seem to be flinching about 9 figures to the left of the decimal, and this is going to be a long-term thing, and they don't mind. They're not. And there's one thing that we need to clear up. They're not surrendering all revenue. They're not surrendering every single dime to go into the ACC. They are getting some revenue back from the conference. It's just that top level revenue that we normally associate, they're
TV money.
They're not getting that. They're getting other stuff, but they're not getting the big revenue sources. So they're not going in completely destitute.
So they get their portion of the gate. They just don't get. They get zero of the TV revenue.
Yeah, there are some things that they get in that I think it's like 12 right now. It's like $12 million. I think they would be getting as a member of the ACC. But the TV money they're not attached to, but there are other sources that they are getting attached to. So, let us know here on the network where you are going on Saturday. Who's your team? Where you're going? Where you'd like to go. Even if if your team is off for a week, what game would you like to go see? Those kinds of things. Let us know in the comments here every single week. Marty, you get the last word before we go.
Is it Tarleton State versus Texas Tech?
Tarleton.
Is that the game you're going to go to?
Yes. Well, I'm locked into.
I'm not sure where that college is. I know that when I worked at Tarrant County College, that they had they rented out a floor at one of the campuses where they taught. They had a satellite campus within Tarrant County College. So I'm not quite sure where their full campus is.
Well, we'll find that out before we go. All right. So ASUN and WAC eyeing a pair for an FBS jump. That came 9 minutes ago from Pete Thamel. Huh. Sorry. December 9, 2022. So 9 months, not 9 minutes ago. Okay. God. All right. So hang on. Let's find out where the Tarleton State Texans are, because didn't Tarleton State pick up Billy Gillespie as their basketball coach?
I honestly don't know.
I think they did.
All I know is they're part of the WAC.
Yes, and part of the UAC when it comes to football, which goes back to our interview, if you missed it in the middle of the show, with Jason Carmichael, the athletic director of the University of West Georgia, as they make their way. Stephenville, Texas, is where they are.
Hope they have a Buc-ee's.
Yeah, and their parent institution is the Texas A&M University system. So they are in Stephenville, and they're a part of the Texas A&M drop-down model. So 15,000 students, 12,000 undergrads, 2,000 postgrads, Tarleton State University. But yeah, I think Billy Gillespie, they hired him to be their basketball coach a while ago, but they're very big in the Texan Corps of Cadets and their music program. So that is your program to support this week if you're anywhere near Stephenville, Texas, is Tarleton State. So Marty's going to keep an eye on everything going on over there in the southwestern quadrant. I'm here in the SEC. Phil, J-Dub, Wilkie, they're all around the place. And they'll be with us here on a weekly basis as well. Since it's Sunday, Marty has pro football to keep an eye on as we're taping. And so Marty is going to go sprint and keep an eye on his Cleveland Browns. I, on the other hand, am going to be focusing on the other football, because there's a lot of other stuff going on here at OSG Sports and the SDH Network. So for Marty, I'm John. Play it safe, everybody. Enjoy college football. That's the review here at OSG Sports.
Please like and subscribe, and see our website, www.onlinesportsguys.com.